to Weather Extra. I'm First Alert meteorologist Jillian Johnson. For the second week in a row, the major weather story is Hurricane Melissa, the storm that struck Jamaica late last month. The country is reeling from those devastating impacts after the storm slammed into the western part of the island as a record-breaking Category 5 storm. Melissa is the costliest hurricane in Jamaica's history and would take the lives of over 30 people on that island, and more than 50 other lives would be taken across other Caribbean islands. The hurricane left a trail of destruction as it tore across Jamaica, completely leveling some communities. Many of the local residents there are struggling to confront the massive job of living day to day and are now left with the unimaginable work ahead to restore some sense of normality when most homes are damaged or destroyed and critical infrastructure is gone. CNN's David Culver kicks off this week's episode of Weather Extra with this report from some of the hardest hit areas in Jamaica.
We are catching some water because that's the only way we can get water. We are damaged here in Jamaica, real bad.
Across much of western Jamaica, the storm has passed, but you feel it everywhere. Survival mode has kicked in.
In here in Belmont, we are very distressed and we really need some help because you have persons who are very homeless and we don't really have any food supplies.
This is where you live here?
Now they're coming to terms with what's left, and for many here, it's not much.
This was your bed?
Yeah. I'm in my bed. Look at your bed mashed up.
It's all mashed up, you're right. You're right.
There's one here. This is one of our neighbor house also. Her house destroyed also. Everybody house in this community is very destroyed. We don't see nobody. And that I keep on wondering. We have suffered here and nobody comes to assist. You know how we even get some things like these? It's persons who are going around in vehicle and giving out a little portion of tokens.
As one resident pointed out, even if a house is still standing because of concrete, most likely the windows were shattered and water got in, sand got in, furniture, clothes, all their belongings destroyed. I mean, it just continues. It's endless. I mean, you look up there and it just goes all the way up.
And take a look at some of this damage in New Jersey. Strong winds from severe thunderstorms toppled trees onto buildings and cars Wednesday night. Severe storms also impacted parts of Philly and other northeast cities during the middle of last week. And now to the West Coast. A fast-moving atmospheric river system brought gusty winds, scattered showers, and hazardous coastal conditions across Northern California and Oregon last week. Parts of the San Francisco Bay Area were under a high wind warning, which led to some damage and caused power outages. Suzanne Fawn shows us how local residents dealt with the stormy conditions last week.
The rain, the wind,
very windy,
and the rising water made for some wild weather in parts of the Bay Area.
It was quite a storm for a little while.
In Mill Valley along Miller Avenue on Camino Alto, streets were closed off.
It's often commonly flooding over there.
It's the tide, the king tides. You know, the big moon means big tides.
At Tamalpais High School, we encountered a couple of students scrambling to pull their cars out because of the rising tide water.
It's just been going up and up.
Boston Nahigian went barefoot because there was so much water.
It was probably about a foot, maybe a foot and a half. Yeah, I had to pull up my jeans and it got up to about halfway up my shin, right about to there.
Nahigian got his car out in the nick of time.
My friends were saying it got about as close to the exhaust as it could get without going in.
Heavy rain and slick road conditions often mean fender benders. In Nevada, police say this SUV driver hydroplaned off the freeway down a ravine. Earlier this Wednesday morning, a wet waterfront in San Francisco. Powerful waves slamming into the sidewalk here along the Embarcadero. In downtown San Francisco, umbrellas were getting a lot of love as people headed on their way to and from the office. The rain tapered off, giving way to gusty conditions. Strong winds swept away the leaves. For some folks and their four-legged friends, it was a chance to enjoy a brisk walk. What started as atmospheric river conditions has tapered off, but many Bay Area residents take it all in stride.
I don't think you can fool with Mother Nature, so I don't think we have a choice on anything.
Were you able to catch the beautiful full moon last week? Well, this is what it looked like if you missed it. These are shots of the moon seen across the world from this past Wednesday. November's full moon is known as the beaver moon. It gets this name because this is the time of the year when beavers are most active. This month's full moon is also a supermoon. Supermoons are when the moon is at its closest point to Earth in its orbit, making the moon appear larger than an average full moon. The moon came within just under 2,200,000 miles of Earth. Now, supermoons happen a few times a year. November's supermoon is the second of 3 this year. We had one in October that made the moon look somewhat larger, and we get to enjoy another one next month as we close out the year. Switching gears now, a major milestone for the International Space Station has been reached. For 25 years, the orbiting outpost has hosted 280 people from 23 countries, 250 miles overhead. Jerica Duncan has more.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
The International Space Station we know today started out with just 2 modules, one Russian, one American, joined together in December of 1998.
Houston Endeavour, we have capture of Zarya.
We have ignition and liftoff.
23 months later,
Beautiful view of the International Space Station.
2 Russian cosmonauts and NASA astronaut Bill Shepard became the station's first inhabitants.
We're sure enjoying it up here.
Other astronauts followed.
It is a magical place, really kind of like, Disney World for adults.
Former NASA astronaut Scott Kelly had 3 stays, including a full year in 2015, conducting experiments in zero gravity that have led to advancements in medicine.
As we age, bone loss becomes an issue, so it's really a great place to research those kind of things.
But for some, it wasn't until Kelly dressed in a gorilla suit that people looked up and paid attention to what was happening in space.
You cannot look away from a gorilla flying around the International Space Station. If you can get one kid's attention with it, well worth the effort.
From marathon runs to a pizza delivery, anything seems possible in space. Former NASA astronaut Garrett Reisman says his favorite moment was suiting up for a spacewalk.
And I watched an orbital sunrise, and I had nothing between me and the sun but the horizon of the Earth, and I still can see it.
And something else he witnessed, unity.
The biggest or most successful peacetime collaboration between nations.
If we can do this, we can do anything. We can fix our challenges at home, abroad, and, if we want, we can go to Mars someday.
Jerica Duncan, CBS News.
Straight ahead on Weather Extra, companies are using the power of AI in an environmentally friendly way. We have more on how they're doing that right after the break. Welcome back to Weather Extra. Earlier this year, General Motors announced a partnership to provide electric vehicle batteries to a recycling company who's using the old batteries to help increase energy supply to fuel the growth of artificial intelligence. Here's more on how that company is using those EV batteries to keep AI off the grid.
In a field outside of Reno, rows of solar panels soak up sunshine. Beside them, used electric vehicle batteries under white plastic. Their job, keep these 2 data centers running day and night. Each one draws roughly a megawatt, enough electricity to power 1,000 homes.
The whole AI industry is struggling with how to access more reliable power on a fast timescale.
That scramble is real. A Department of Energy study says U.S. data centers could swallow up to 12% of all electricity by 2028, triple today's share. In Texas alone, developers have filed plans for more than 100 new gas-fired plants, mostly for servers.
What does this solution offer that gas power doesn't?
Gas power is a great solution that data centers are turning to for speed 2 megawatts. This is an alternative way to accomplish that speed, but with a renewable power source.
Those recycled batteries come from Redwood Materials. The company already reuses 90% of North America's lithium-ion waste, batteries equal to 250,000 cars every year. Engineer Colin Campbell hates to toss out anything that can still work.
There's really very little wrong with them. Like maybe they have lost 20% of their capacity, maybe your electric vehicle's a little bit slower, and so that's appropriate that you don't want it in your car anymore. But it still works great. So we just looked at that and we're like, hey, why don't we use it to store energy for the grid?
Engineers kept the system simple. No pipes, no pumps.
And that's been a fun engineering effort for the engineering team to make something that is robust, that is incredibly useful, but also very cheap and quick to put in the field.
The company is confident that if it works here in rural Nevada, they can clone this setup 100-fold.
There's finally really starting to see this tidal wave.
Redwood founder J.B. Strebel says the raw material is already rolling off America's roads.
How scalable is this?
There's no practical limit that we see on how we can scale this. It's one thing that makes us so excited. This is very modular.
And sidesteps the dirtiest part of the AI boom.
This is a different way to power the AI revolution. We're showing that AI doesn't have to be in conflict with the existing grid.
Yesterday's car batteries powering tomorrow's computer brains. Andres Gutierrez, CBS News, Sparks, Nevada.
Sorting paper, glass, and plastic recyclables can be a chore, but imagine what it's like with thousands of tons of material. Well, a new artificial intelligence tool is helping some recycling plants make the process more efficient. But as Bradley Blackburn explains, they still need your help at home.
At this recycling plant in Berlin, Connecticut, multi-million-dollar machines move in every direction, sorting everything you can imagine.
It moves fast, very quickly. We process up to 50 to 60 tons an hour.
But blink and you might miss game-changing technology. Intelligent eyes closely watching it all.
That box is a supercomputer. It is, yeah.
The red boxes are from a company called Gray Parrot. Entrepreneur Ambarish Mitra believes artificial intelligence combined with high-speed cameras can help solve a massive global waste problem.
Large-scale AI should be used to actually increase efficiency to a level where almost nothing would be a waste. We want to build a world where we see every object as a resource and it can be recovered and it could be back into society.
The AI boxes can identify recyclables based on shape, labeling, and other criteria and warn if something sneaks through. The plant still needs plenty of human workers too, but AI helps maintain the purity of the sorted product, which ultimately helps recycling make money.
If it should notice that something's not right, it'll send us an alert, and we can go and see what's going on to make a change in the system. Even with technology, it's still an immense and expensive job to sort all this material. And what you do at home matters.
Tips include never putting items like lithium-ion batteries in recycling. They can cause fires here. It also helps to clean and sort your recyclables.
You need to follow the recipe or the instructions that's given by your local recycling coordinator. They'll tell you what should go in and what shouldn't.
Every little bit helps because it clearly adds up. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, Berlin, Connecticut.
Up next on Weather Extra is this week's Degrees of Science. In our conversation this week, Brady Taylor talks with an allergy doctor to learn more about what goes on within our bodies whenever an allergic reaction strikes. Welcome back to Weather Extra. Allergies are something that a lot of us deal with, from seasonal allergies, environmental allergies, to food allergies. They all impact people in many different ways. In this week's Degrees of Science, Brady Taylor had the chance to chat with an allergy doctor about the science behind different types of allergies and what goes on in your body whenever we have an allergic reaction.
Today we're talking with Dr. Ray Rodriguez from Baylor Scott & White. So Dr. Rodriguez, I guess before we jump too far into it, in your body, what's going on when you have allergic reactions to something?
Well, it's an immune reaction. What happens, you develop this allergic antibody named IgE. And that IgE is specific to whatever environmental trigger or allergen, from pollen, dust mites, animal dander. And that IgE rest in around some allergy cells called mast cells. These mast cells, they're going to be in your body. It's going to be in your respiratory tissue, it's going to be in your lungs, it's going to be in your skin. So when you get exposed to this allergen that you produce, this specific IgE, it's going to trigger the mast cells to activate. And when the mast cells opens up, it releases a whole bunch of mediators into your body. For example, histamine, that it can trigger sneezing, itching, but also releases a whole bunch of mediators, like it's going to trigger an immune reaction in your body or inflammation in your body.
What's the difference when your body's reacting to, say, seasonal allergies versus environmental compared to food allergies that some of us deal with?
If we go back to environmental allergies, we call it allergic rhinitis. We also have seasonal or perennial. Seasonal is going to be for pollens, perennial is going to be for animal dander, dust mites, cockroach, moles. And then food allergy is different, because for food allergies, you tend to have a more severe systemic reaction that can involve your whole body. For example, we call that anaphylaxis. So anaphylaxis is when you have two systems in your body acting at the same time. One system can be the skin with hive or swelling, or also can be your GI tract having gastrointestinal symptoms like vomiting, abdominal pain. So if you have skin plus GI symptoms, that's anaphylaxis, or you have skin symptoms plus respiratory symptoms after ingesting a food, that's called anaphylaxis.
Are allergies something that people are just born with, or is this something that can develop throughout your life?
Well, you're not born with allergies, but remember, we are a reflection of our parents' genetics. For example, if you have both parents suffer from allergies, your kids will have a 75% chance of having allergies. But again, it depends on your environmental exposure. As you grow up to different allergens in your environment, you can develop allergies. Again, you are predisposed from the beginning, and it just depends on the trigger.
So you were talking one thing, your body releases histamines when we're dealing with allergens. What is the medicine antihistamine? What is that doing to try to help control that issue?
Sure, so histamine is going to trigger what? In the respiratory tract, it's going to trigger sneezing and itching. It doesn't do anything for congestion. That's why you buy over-the-counter antihistamines. They can come in mixed with a decongestant. But that's why it only helps to control sneezing and itching. It doesn't do anything for the congestion. And that's why for patients with nasal allergies, we try to add something else, like for example, a nasal steroid or a nasal antihistamine.
So people use antihistamine and stuff like that, but some people have been using more nasal sprays or like the neti pots and stuff like that. Is that something that helps out with this?
Yes, I always recommend my patients who have nasal allergies to use the saline nasal spray or the neti pot. First of all, it helps to get rid of those secretions and also help to clean your nose from those allergies you've been inhaling through the whole day. Nasal steroids, what they're going to do, they're going to help to decrease the inflammation and the number of inflammatory cells in your nasal tissue.
For somebody that's been having allergy issues, when does it get to the point where somebody should make an appointment to come see a doctor about it?
When you're going to see the allergist immunologist is when you are using your daily medication and you're still very symptomatic, or you cannot get rid of the stuff that you think you're allergic to. You have allergies to pollen. Every time you go walk outside your house, what's going to happen? You're going to be exposed to pollen. And you're still very miserable or having side effects with the medication. That's the time to go see an allergist. And what we're going to do allergy skin tests to identify the possible allergens that you have reactions with. And then the next step is to provide allergy immunotherapy or what we call allergy shots. What we're trying to do is to change your immune system from being a pro-allergic to a less allergic. It's like a desensitization in a way. And it has an efficacy of around 85%. Remember, if you stop taking your medications, what's going to happen when you get exposed to the allergen? You're going to go back and have the same symptoms. But with allergy immunotherapy, again, what we're trying to change is the reaction of your immune system to the allergen.
To hear more about the science behind allergies, scan the QR code on your screen to watch on YouTube or go to KWTX.com/degrees of science. Well, a new series of satellites are helping firefighters track hotspots all the way from space. Dan Smith has more on this in this week's Moment of Science coming up right after the break. Welcome back to Weather Extra. Firefighters across the nation are beginning to battle wildfires with the help of some high tech. In this week's Moment of Science, Dan Smith has a story of how these satellites are seeing more than meets the eye. Take a look.
High winds and dry fuel can make for a destructive and sometimes deadly combination. Wildfires burn through an estimated 1 billion acres of land worldwide every year. That's a little under half the total area of the United States. In an ever-changing world, sometimes your best option to battle flames on the ground is to view from afar. Visible satellite imagery certainly helps track smoke plumes and the like, but what about finding the most likely hotspots before things heat up in the first place? Enter Dr. Chris Ruff at the University of Michigan and their work on Cygnus.
It doesn't see the fires, it sees things that can burn, and so it maps likelihood, fire likelihood. The goal there, when you have a lot of satellites in orbit, is you come back around the same spot really often. every tens of minutes.
Cygnus has been on orbit for nearly a decade, at first intended to measure more accurate wind speeds over the ocean ahead of hurricanes, but now targeting the likelihood of wildfires. The Wolverine team worked on those sensors, and now the Muon Space Company is helping to build upon that work, designing and building new satellites in the heart of Silicon Valley. The most recent launch in March 2025 carried a new addition, the FireSat sensor, part of just one of 50 planned satellites.
An infrared system that images at a number of different wavelengths, long wave, short wave, medium wave, and visible, and it's specifically tuned to be able to detect the presence of fire, especially when it's burning from wood and vegetation.
Wildfires have some distinct tells which these satellites pick up on, which is great not only for identifying those flames, but cutting through the noise as well.
There's other things that can get hot, but not with these particular spectral signatures.
That helps place crews in the best position to fight fires, sometimes by starting backfires with controlled burns ahead of the uncontrolled conflagration. First responders like the Cal Fire Agency are working closely with Muon and U of M to get a sense of how these sensors work and can help them in the field when minutes make a critical difference.
This transition from research to operations is what you call it, R2O. It's wonderful to see, and it's great to work with the people that really want to use the data for real things like saving lives.
Verifying their data with drones a lot closer to terra firma will also help research continue for future missions.
The grad students that work on this with me, they like the fun part of just figuring out new tricky things, but knowing that it's going to be put to good use in practical ways is just icing on the cake. We'll just keep pushing the tech and improving the capabilities, and then connecting better with the user community.
This cavalcade of circumnavigators is slated to launch late in 2025 with another round in 2026. For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Dan Smith.
Well, that's all we have for you for this week's episode of Weather Extra. We're back again next weekend with another half hour of your top weather and science stories. We'll see you next time. Have a great week.